We could come to order, please, and prior to starting the meeting, if I could ask everybody to please silence their cell phones. I can do that. And if we can start with a prayer, please.
We come before you humbly today here, Father God. We're asking that you have given us guidance and wisdom as we proceed to do the people's business. We ask that we behave toward one another with the utmost respect and courtesy. And again, we need your wisdom, Lord, to do things that would please you and serve the people of Livingston Parish as best we can. We thank you and praise you in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, call the meeting to order, and this is, excuse me, October 3rd. We'll start with our zoning meeting. If you could have a roll call, please. Roll call. Oh, you got it. Okay. Oh, okay.
Should we be accepting the minutes for the last
Mr. Engler,
Here.
Mr. Clemens,
Here.
Mr. Watts, Mr. Guidry,
Here.
Mr. Wax,
Here.
Mr. Dana,
Here.
Mr. Burns,
Here.
Miss Ferris,
Here.
Miss Long.
Here. Okay, we can move on to the adoption of the minutes from our regular zoning meeting dated September 5th. We have a motion, please.
I'll second.
Mr. Burns makes a motion and a second by Ms. Ferris, please. Take the vote.
Mr. Engler,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens, Mr. Watts,
Yes.
Mr. Guidry,
Abstain.
Mr. Wax,
Yes.
Mr. Dana,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Miss Ferris,
Yes.
Miss Long.
Yes. Okay, item number 7, public hearing on a rezoning request. And it's for case number 24-02-11037 Buddy Ellis Road. And do we have anyone here on their behalf? Yes, please. Opening of the public hearing.
I'm sorry, it's my first time.
That's okay. If you could state your name, please.
My name is Linda Lacombe, and this is concerning the estate of my parents. And what we're hoping for is a vote to change that property over to commercial. There are 5 different apartment complexes that are across the street directly, and they just keep building more and more. And we need to sell the property, so I was hoping it would go commercial, whether it turns into another apartment complex or a grocery store, a gas station. I just think that would be an excellent spot.
Okay. Do we have anyone here from engineering or any?
I brought my brother and my son, and there's a neighbor here in that area.
It is,
Okay, we can, might not need, that might not be necessary, so
Okay.
let's see what,
it's the recommendation of the planning department to deny based on everything around is residential zoned.
okay. And any opinions, Morgan, from engineering, just the planning, right, you have no, okay.
The lots on each side are all residential up and down the road, so this would put the commercial lot in the middle of the residential.
May I say something?
No, of course.
On each side of the property, the neighbors are also interested in doing theirs the same. They're waiting to see how I turn out, but they're like, we would be interested in having theirs sold too. Ours is 3.5 acres. On one side, it's 1 acre. On the other side, it's another 3 acres.
All right.
That would be 7.5 acres.
Okay, is there anyone else here to speak in that regard as far as, yes, sir, if you'd like to come up?
Russ Stringer, 10977 Bud Ellis Road, Denham Springs. I'm in the next door neighbor. North, I live on the north side of Buddy Ellis. Her property is on the same side of Buddy Ellis. The apartments are, I would imagine, C1, light commercial. On the maps that y'all put out, that the council put out, I saw the map, our map. And north of us, behind me, is commercial. And like she was saying that myself, my neighbor to the west, he's wanting to do the same thing, commercial. And several other people that I've talked to in that short span, half a mile span there, are interested in doing the same thing, like commercial. That's all I got.
Okay, so anyone else with any public comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And so, commissioners, anyone have any comments?
You asked him to go from, what is it, R something to R2 to C1, but just the designated commercial, you don't have a certain type of commercial development going there. I mean, you're just wanting to change so you can sell it as commercial. Is that right?
Right.
Is that what I hear you?
Yes, sir. Well, I've been told that I need to see if I can have it turned to commercial, and then I guess I talked to my lawyer about it, so I don't know if it's she or if it's the person who's buying it chooses what they want to put there.
Sure.
But as many people as we have on Buddy Ellis, I mean, there's 5 apartment complexes right now. They're clearing another lot just down the way. I think that might be garden homes, I'm not sure, some type of subdivision. And on the far end toward Walker, there are just tons of subdivisions. And I'm like, all these people, and this is just my thought on it, all these people have to shop for groceries or get gas to go and to come to work. Our road is becoming like a highway. It's a 2-lane right now, and they had discussed in the past making it a 4-lane or at least a 3-lane where you could have a turn spot. But I know that over the years, we've at least, I don't know, not even triple, more than that. I don't know what the numbers are, but I know that we're just chock-a-block with people now. And so my thought was, it's a great piece of land, and it is in a good location where we could prioritize it and make something for everyone. You know, whoever decides to buy it, whatever they choose to do with it. I mean, I've tossed it around with a few people myself. Most people think it's gonna be more apartments. And I'm like, I don't see why it couldn't be a grocery store, a gas station, I mean, even a restaurant. It's a great layout, the way the land is. But, I mean, I can't predict the future. I'm just trying to do what's best for our family.
I went down and looked at the whole area back. All the apartments you're talking about has been over the last 10 years, I guess. But I just want to point out to my fellow commissioners that all those apartments are for profit. They're not run by the government as low-rent housing, but they're all for profit. They put in as a multifamily development, but they're for profit.
I thought the red ones were the low income, the red brick. I think they just changed their name to, is it Magnolia, or, I don't remember. I think I have a picture on my phone.
Right.
But at one, when it was first built, that was for the lower income. But I do know that some people pay $1,500 an apartment, and I think it's ridiculous, but
Yeah, my point is they're all for profit, and then
Yes,
that's,
sir.
basically that's commercial. But is there anybody here tonight that's opposing what you're trying to do?
I'm
Your
not
neighbors-
aware of
Your
it.
neighbors, they agree with what you're trying to do?
Right.
They're your neighbors?
They're actually asking me to do my part so they can follow suit with, I guess, make sure that I get approved for commercial. And like I say, both sides have asked me, well, let me know, because I'm gonna do the same thing. And so it just opens it up bigger and bigger. But at this point, I think I'm the only one stepping forward.
Okay.
I do appreciate y'all's time
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very
and
much.
consideration.
Anyone else with any comments
Oh,
or
I'm sorry.
questions?
I do
I
just,
have one more thing to say. I walk my dog in the front yard all the time, and we need a red light there where the my driveway is, because I hide behind the trees a lot of times, because they people pull out of the apartment complex and they're not they're about to get killed. They run in the ditch 3 times that I've seen, and anyway, we need a red light there too. Thank you.
That would be my main concern, whatever would be put there, the traffic. Like I say, we have just bukus of traffic. And it used to be a gravel road. Time really changes things.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to clarify, multifamily, so where the apartments are, that's, we may think of that as commercial, but it's not commercial. It's actually still a residential zoning designation. So it's zoned R4 across the street. That's still a residential category.
So does that mean that if it's not commercial, somebody could buy it and put multiple places on it? Is that what you're saying?
If it's zoned for multifamily, yes, ma'am. So your property would not be, because it's zoned R1, it's single family. Yours
Right.
could only be a single family household, but the property with the apartments across the street, did I say R1? Sorry, R2. Thank you.
Yeah.
Two.
But the property across the street, yes,
Yes,
that's,
ma'am. Well, I just keep thinking in my mind, and I've prayed a lot about it, because I want to do the right thing. But I want to make, instead of just more traffic, I would like for it to be like a grocery store, or at least like a gas station, something that would help the people, because there's no problem with having people, in that area. It's just whatever I guess y'all choose to zone it as.
Gentlemen, so, well, just want to make sure there's nothing else from either department. And any attorney comments, Mr. Moody?
No, if you have discretion to deny or grant a request, it's up to your discretion.
I would like to go on record as one thing, your idea does make sense.
Thank
It
you.
does.
We
The problem
need,
is it would be spot zoning, and that's
Oh.
what we have to try to not do. So that was why it was a recommendation from the planning department. Not that you didn't have a good idea, because
Right.
you did,
right,
but it was to try to.
yes,
I just
ma'am.
want to
Thank
clarify
you.
that on record.
Well, I appreciate y'all's conversations and your guidance because, I'm new at this and we're learning, but I just know in that area, it is really growing. And to me, that helps the neighbors.
Well, and one explanation too is keep in mind that though both of your adjacent neighbors are in agreement, but they also have neighbors on the other side of them that might not be. And so that's where it brings in the spot zoning, that they expect this whole area is residential and single family.
Yeah.
And then suddenly three people, sell their property, which lends itself to larger commercial
Right,
establishments, whatever that may be, and then they become the next door neighbor. So
Right.
whether yours might agree, but theirs may not.
Right.
So that's,
can I say on that where Mr. Stringer lives, that next to him, there's woods, like it's a big plot. Is that 3 acres on the corner? 5 acres on the corner that's just all woods. What about the man in the house up off the ground? He wants to go commercial? Okay. So on their property, so together, is yours 1 acre and his 1 acre?
That's 2, his 1.
Okay, I'm sorry. 3 acres right next to the property. If I'm looking at the house on the left, Mr. Stringer and the other gentleman are ready to go commercial. Beyond that is a 5-acre woods that I think is just sitting there to do something with. They're letting it sit to see, I guess, if it goes commercial. On the right side of my parents' land is the 3 acres that my other neighbor down the road owns it. There's one lot between his land here, and his homeland, where his house is built. There's 1 acre right in the middle. Y'all might, want to talk to, but I would think he would be eager to do the same, because then, as far as who's around it, nobody would be around it except the gentleman that is down there by me, my brother. We all live right there together. And as far as I know, nobody has complained.
okay. One thing that I might recommend to you, I'm not sure which direction, I'm sorry, go ahead. You had a comment?
We're approximately 8 to 10 weeks away from getting a report and a recommendation on zoning from our consultants that we've hired for the parish. They're getting $750,000. And within a matter of 2 months, we're going to be getting a recommendation on zoning.
That's exactly what I was going to tell
And
them.
I'm reluctant to change zoning right now,
Yes,
knowing that 8 weeks from now, they're going to give us their recommendations.
Right.
One thing, there will be public hearings that you're welcome to come to. That'll be, they'll be advertised.
Yes,
And they
ma'am.
do want input, and that might give you some time to get with these neighbors and make sure that those are concrete opinions.
Right.
And have something a little more solidified, where you can then say, okay, this is this whole section.
Right.
And they're all in agreement, and that may have, I feel like, again, it's so close.
Right.
That might have better impact than trying to do a single spot location at this time.
Right.
And so I think that's probably something to encourage you to attend.
Right.
Regardless of how the vote goes. But,
Yes, ma'am.
but it would be a good opportunity, especially for everyone to express, if they're all in
favor.
consistent with what you'd
So
like
what
to
I
do.
should have done was written up a form and had them sign off that they are willing and agree to go commercial with their property.
That I would get advice from your attorney or as far as what it would require, but But, but getting them all on the same page would probably be, very beneficial, and it's really around the corner.
Right. Verbally, I have that, but I didn't think to have it written. And on your comment, with that committee that's going to rezone, could that possibly just rezone it to commercial? Or that's something I would have to come up behind?
The way the law reads, it says there's supposed to be exhaustive surveys. There'll be town halls, there'll be meetings with people in business, people in residential areas. There'll be lots of conversations had on setting up new zoning. However, they're going to give us some interim zoning in December to be passed.
Right.
So that's a matter of 8 to 10 weeks from now. They're going to ask us to pass interim zoning, and then they'll follow through with the new master plan, which should be updated March, April, May next year, something like that. At
Yes,
that
sir.
point in time, we start doing finalized zoning. But right now, there is a lot going on with zoning. And like I said, I'm just reluctant to spot zone one piece of property
Right.
when we're going to have to turn around and do something again in December and April, May.
Right.
What I could do as a recommendation is, like Mr. Bryan's saying, there will be a lot of public hearings that all of you on that side of the road can go to. All of you get together and request commercial C1, okay?
Yes, sir.
And you can change things by doing that, but you got to go to these public hearings. You gotta.
Well, you're my first hearing ever, so how do I get
Well, I
connected to
think
all that?
probably with the planning department, am I right, Ms. BD? You can contact the planning department and they'll tell you when the public hearings are at and what time and date, and get all of your neighbors there to do what you're trying to do.
Right.
And get things changed and then use zoning maps, and that's what the public hearings are for. So, like Mr. Bryan said, that's just a few months apart.
Right.
And
You
that's
can-
will
I would
also.
recommend that you do that.
Right. Okay.
It will
So-
be, it will be advertised as well of the meetings and where they're going to be held at. So, you could either call the planning office and we can let you know if any are coming up and when.
So what you're saying is, if I get with my neighbors and tell them as a group, let's go to the meeting, we're gonna stand up as a unit and
You
say,
voice your
we
opinion.
are all interested in it going commercial.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a
they'll be-
website.
They will have
There is
maps.
a website.
And and there is a website, and the department can give you all that information.
Okay.
And there'll be maps there for you to be able to, show the property, give,
Right.
any pictures you might have, anything
Yeah.
like that.
See,
And they'll hear you out. Now, it'll be throughout the parish. They'll do some of these meetings at either a library or possibly, other large capacity locations. And all of that'll be provided on the website as well as through the department.
Okay. I know when I filled out the form, I had to provide pictures of the place and of all the apartments. So that's what I would have to show again?
I think the more information you have, the better. So anything that you think would sell your idea and your request, I would think you would go, that would be a good route to go. But, meanwhile, just stay in touch with the department, and they'll be able, as soon as those meetings are scheduled, they'll be able to let you know.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. On that rezoning, are y'all gonna make our road a 3-lane at least, or a
We
4?
would love to do that.
Me too.
We, on
We
the
might
master
need to
plan
move on
committee.
now.
I was going to say,
I
I'm not
mean,
sure that's
is the dangerous, you
yeah.
know, so much-
Unfortunately, we don't control that, so.
On the master plan committee, to answer your question, is we
Yes.
did make some recommendations to send to the council, and I talked to my councilman today, Mr. Ricky Goff, about making that 4-lane, not 3-lane.
Yes,
But it takes a lot of money to do that, so Mr. Ricky Goff can find you that money, hopefully,
yes, sir. It would be needed and, appreciated, because it can get dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, I think that'd be allowable, or you could table it, or, take no action at this time, or defer it.
Does deferring it or taking no action make it
Take no
accepted
action.
if 60 days pass? Is there a timeline?
Well, it's not a preliminary plat issue, so I need to check this zoning ordinance is still pretty new. Whether or not there's a limit to the number of times you can request rezoning. If you get turned down on a plat, you gotta wait, but I don't think that's necessarily true for zoning. Do anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't think, she could come back up here in a month and ask for, to reconsider,
Just please don't deny me and leave me hanging.
or it could be withdrawn.
Can we take no action?
We could take no action.
If you withdraw your request, that if we vote and deny it,
Right.
then it goes in as a denial versus if you withdraw the request, then you have the opportunity to do the things that we recommended by going, get collectively with your neighbors and go to the meetings and see what progress can be made as a group, which would probably be a much more desirable way to do it. And so that way it doesn't have to move through the system and show that it was in fact denied.
Right.
If you,
I don't
if
want-
you
yeah.
just would like to withdraw it. So that would be,
I would wait.
You would wait?
I would wait.
Okay.
we're
Anybody
making
else?
this recommendation as to try to be helpful.
Oh, yes, and
so-
I appreciate
so-
your help because, I'm out here kind of winging it, and from the beginning, I've always said I want to do the right thing, but I also don't want to just up and sell our part and leave everyone else hanging, and
Right.
if it's sold, I would like it to help the neighborhood.
Well, of course.
You
So
know,
again, I think this would be the right direction.
Okay.
And all that we would ask is you could make the verbal request that we withdraw the motion.
Okay.
And withdraw your request.
Okay.
And then if you would, put something in writing that you made the decision to withdraw, and just sign that for us.
Okay.
If you could do that.
So I need to withdraw right now so that I can get the neighbors together and have that proof.
And
along with
attend the
what I
public
have.
hearings, yes.
Public hearings.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do you choose to officially withdraw?
Yes, I choose to officially withdraw. I want a clean slate so that when it goes through, I want it done.
Okay, so we are withdrawing
I
case
gotta
number
ask a
24-02
question,
dash,
Mr. Chairman.
sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to ask Ms. Dee a question. She has a valid request to do a zoning change, and let's say that she cannot get her property rezoned in the maps. How long is her request good for? If she can come back with her, request, how long is that gonna be good for?
She could come back at any time with her
A
request.
year?
I have no problem
Is
with
there a
that.
time limit? A year or?
Not that I'm aware of, no,
No
sir.
time limit.
But I would honor the paperwork, if for some reason it gets chosen not to get rechanged at some public
Right.
meetings.
She can come back.
And
if-
she can come back, yes, ma'am, you could come back and try, to go through it again to get it rezoned at that time. We will work with you on that.
Okay, so do I have to go through the whole process, providing all
No, ma'am.
pictures
We'll have-
and paying that fee?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
I just come in and say,
Just
I'm ready.
contact, if things don't work out the way it could work out with the public hearings, contact the planning department, and then we can pull your paperwork and then reinstate it and put you on another meeting like this.
Oh, and just try it again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I kind of hope he's right and I get rezoned in
Yes.
2 months.
And,
We don't know, but I do appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you.
and if you would just
you.
do that document for us, sign something saying that you officially withdrew. We appreciate it.
Yes,
So, case number 24-02, located at 11037 Buddy Ellis Road, has been withdrawn. The rezoning request has been withdrawn. Now, my apologies, I overlooked item number 6, so if we can go back to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Recommendations to the council for future rezoning requests. think,
What's it? That's right, that's right. Yeah. I forgot. Well, we didn't have zoning before, so that was the issue.
okay, I think the purpose, just to have the conversation, that we felt like making that recommendation to the council, that we do hold off on any type of zoning changes until we go through this process with the recommendations and the public hearings. So we basically avoid what we just experienced tonight, so we won't go through that repeatedly, so.
The last meeting, I did make that request.
That we've all, talked about that.
Do you need that in the form of a motion, or?
I think we could make it as a motion to make the recommendation to the council.
Can I make that motion?
Absolutely, if
Is
no
that-
one else has a comment.
Temporary, Mr. Burns, or?
Well, permanently, through the process of the public hearings until, I think that's supposed to be effective in February, that's what I hear in the task force meeting.
Or
That's what I
Right,
was,
Mr. Bryan?
maybe through the end of the year, because they said by the end of December, they want the,
February.
well,
They said interim for December, and they weren't gonna guarantee anything earlier than May for the final,
I understand the zoning maps would be approved by February.
hopefully.
That's what I heard the other night.
But
Well,
that's not an
that's
ordinance.
just
That's
but
not an
that's-
ordinance. That would be come to us in February for recommendations.
Well, all the maps would be approved by the planning commission by February, is what they said.
But all
That-
that
that's
is a recommendation of the
and that's
council.
a tentative, there, yeah, it's not a final.
I agree. Should it be temporary?
I would like to go to at least February.
I think it would be a little longer. It would probably be April, May.
Well, you want to do
Yeah,
that?
well, we could revisit it at that time, if
Go February
it's
now,
not
then
done by
We will
then.
be to the point of making recommendations to the council by February, they said.
Okay. I want to make a motion that we ask the council to recommend that the council defer all zoning applications until the end of February 2025. Until the zoning maps are approved by the planning commission and the council.
Okay, those,
We were supposed to be giving our recommendations. We were supposed to be given our recommendations by February, and they were planning on having the council turn them into ordinances by May. So we need to specify, do we just hold everything until we have our recommendations, or do we wait until the council has actually passed
Do
it?
we want to
So-
change it to May?
The thing is, right, or we could start with their initial submissions, are gonna be the end. We could start there, and we could just, at that point, we would know more.
So that'd be February then.
Possibly, we just don't know, but we won't know that till the end of December.
What I heard them say, and have been saying, that once the planning commission approves the maps and then the council approves the maps, they're law. Then that's gonna happen real fast by February. If not, they got to extend the moratorium.
No,
That's what I've heard them say.
what they said is they would get it to us for our recommendations in February. So at that point in time, we take it up, we discuss it, and then we make our recommendations to the council. At that point in time, there's some time limits that are built in for public hearings, what have you, and they were hoping to have it passed by May in ordinances.
I changed the motion to defer all applications until May of 2025.
I think that'd probably be best.
You got that?
Until the council passes permanent zoning ordinances.
That's better than a date.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
why put a date on it? That's, I'm
right,
sitting there
that's what-
listening,
I agree,
just,
yeah.
just what you just said.
What if it's earlier?
It could be January, it could be
Right.
May or June.
You're right.
So why date it? There's no such date
That's better.
until it's legal. We said that last meeting.
how long is gonna be too long, though? What if they never do?
Right.
Well, that happened by.
I hope that doesn't happen, but.
No, but if
but
it does happen, it's just, we're nervous to vote on something when we're going through the process. Just like Mr. Bryan said, we're in this process, and obviously, we're paying the parish is paying a lot of money to get this process completed. So it has to have a stop.
Well, the one factor too, like I had said before, we can do it again and extend it versus if we do it and it becomes May, we can't back it up. Versus we could do, January 1st or February 1st and whatever, and then put the same recommendation in place again. At that point, we'll have a better pace of what's taking place.
If the motion has the wording of until they pass permanent zoning maps, and there's no or until XYZ, then that motion we'll never hear another zoning request again. That would be a worst case scenario, which kind of puts the planning department in a potentially bad spot if people have issues with their property. And there are probably plenty of legitimate issues with the existing zoning. So that's my only concern. Someone may have a legitimate problem where their piece of property is zoned commercial and everything around them is residential and they can't go build their house. So I don't want to put a person in a bind waiting. I'm okay with May. I just think we may want to word that in such a way that we allow ourselves the option to lift that somehow.
To do it before then.
If something goes awry, if we want to get out of it sooner, whatever. I just don't want to box this in too tightly.
Well, I think the wording that Mr. Bryan says until when the maps become legal and approved by the planning commission and the council. Am I right, Mr. Bryan? Then that's what the wording should be, right?
But again, as Ms. Ferris is saying, that if there's an individual situation, there would be no remedy.
How about
You could say May, but say if the
Or sooner.
council approves before that time, then
whichever's quicker.
I'm with you. If there's something that comes up that's isolated,
Yeah, we said a couple of different things. We said May, and then we also said until they pass the permanent zoning maps. So until May would be, if we don't have them by May, then, oh, well, we just kind of go back to where we are today. But if we say if we don't put the May or any other time frame in there, then it's kind of forever.
Put both,
Right.
just like you said,
Yeah.
make your motion or May, whichever comes
Or-
first.
or
Or
going
May.
back to the fact of doing the shorter
Ms.
time
Ferris.
frame, and say we say February, get to that time frame and say we would like to extend our recommendation until May. Then we're not, if there's that isolated situation, we can deal with it, and if there isn't, there's no reason to not extend it. Because you can always keep going forward, but you can't go backwards.
Ms. Ferris, I'll withdraw my motion if you want to make the motion.
I'm not quite sure how I want to word that, so I have to think about that a minute.
Just, Brian, you make part of it and add to yours too.
Let's defer action on zoning until February. And at February, we will reconsider it.
There you
So we're going to make a recommendation to the council to defer action on any zoning request until February 1st, or the first zoning meeting of February, I should say.
And we
And
will reconsider
And
it
at that time, it will be reconsidered to extend, or if it's not
or
necessary.
end it.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And before we vote, yes, sir, would you like to
Discussion.
comment?
Yes. Ralph Burgess, 30562 Burgess Road. Understand the zoning, what we're working toward and everything, but also you guys need to understand that we also have a moratorium that's possibly could be lifted at the first of the year, which also would impact zoning requests coming into the zoning commission also. So that's something else I don't know if y'all have thought about the moratorium being lifted. That's another. I don't know if they may extend it, they may not, I don't know, but that is a deadline coming up in January for that moratorium. So that would potentially play into zoning requests. Like Ms.
I
Ferris
don't
was
believe
saying.
that the moratorium extends to zoning.
So-
Moratorium has to do with permitting.
That's correct, but if someone comes in when they want to permit something, they have to change the zoning, then there's a zoning request at that time. That's where I was getting at. So just keep that in mind.
Anyway, you made
Not to
a motion.
complicate anything else, just,
Mr. Moody, do you have any
No, I think
reference to
that's a
that?
good approach. It's, you know, you only have a part of the parish that's zoned anyway. And I hate for you to tie your hands too long, because there might be something that's just clearly everybody in the parish agrees should be zoned a certain way, and it's something important to be put there, like a school or a church or something
Right.
else. And so I
Okay,
wouldn't
that was my
like to see you
objective
back
to-
it up too long, but I guess if
Right.
somebody came with something like that, they could ask you to lift your consideration.
Right.
You could take it up as an exceptional thing, so you have flexibility.
Okay, well, I think the February, so, and do we have a second?
I just wanted to say to Mr. Burgess's point, it's a very good point. I think worst-case scenario, though, the timing of the moratorium, unless they chose to extend it while WSP continued their work, you're looking at maybe 2 planning and zoning meetings between the time that the moratorium would either get lifted or automatically expire, and that we would resume zoning hearings. So it would only be an inconvenience maybe for a couple of meetings, I think, with the February timing.
And it would be early February, so it shouldn't be an issue. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you could take a vote, please.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes. Okay. Mr. Moody, any other comments? Okay. Morgan, nothing? Okay. And Ms. Dede, anything?
We have no comments.
Okay. Any other comments regarding zoning from the commission? Okay. That is adjournment of the zoning, and we will now move on to our planning commission meeting. And again, the planning commission meeting of October 3rd. I'll call that meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Mr. Engler?
Here.
Mr. Clemens?
Here?
Mr. Watts? Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Wax?
Here.
Mr. Dana?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Ferris?
Here?
Ms. Long?
Here. Okay. Next, the adoption of the minutes from our September 5th meeting. And may I make a note that Mr. Watts has returned?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
And a second. Okay, Mr. Clements and Mr. Dana? Take a vote, please.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Mr. Guidry?
Abstain.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes. Okay, item number 4 is the presentation of the health unit and jail millage.
Point of
Mr.
order, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
This item really has nothing to do with planning. I recommend we stay in our swim lane and not consider this item.
Okay.
Well, this board has all the right to do whatever they wish if they choose as a body to hear what I have to say about what is very important for the parish. But if y'all choose as a board not to hear, that's fine as well. I'm perfectly okay with that.
I'd like to hear what Mr. Goff has to say, because I know it involves tax
Okay, this is classified as a presentation. There won't be any vote necessary for the actual presentation. You know, no motion or vote will take place, so,
So
unless-
you as the chair ought to rule on the point of order then.
so therefore, I have,
You have the
I have-
discretion to rule on the point of order. If anyone disputes the ruling of the chair, you can ask the board to
take a
overturn
vote.
that.
And well, that's why, because it does not require a motion or any action on our part, but is informative, I don't have any particular objection, so I think we should hear it.
All right. I guess that's my cue to go ahead and move forward.
Please.
First and
I'm sorry?
foremost, I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
Okay.
First and foremost, thank you all for what y'all do. And I thought the lady got her due time and was comfortable when she left that she has a possible direction. In reference to y'all's recommendation of no zoning and things of that nature, I'll support that 100% at the council level to do that. I know that kind of puts y'all in a pickle in the middle, and we really need to have the line drawn somewhere. But we are moving forward. As Mr. Bryan said, Mr. Gerald said, we are moving forward pretty aggressively with our planning and our zoning to try to give y'all the ability to take this parish to the next level. So tonight I'm here, Ricky Goff is here to speak on behalf of two millages, or not millages, but two propositions that are on the ballot. I'm gonna try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. The jail fund is a fund and is a quarter-cent sales tax that will be collected for the next 13 years, no matter what happens at the proposition. What we're trying to do is rededicate those funds because the jail is now paid off. So the jail fund, that quarter-cent sales tax, collects $7.5 million. And the jail fund right now costs us about $3.5 million. So we're going to end up carrying over a large surplus every year. And we're simply trying to get that rededicated and allow the people to give us the ability to do that. The council voted to send all this to the people to vote, and we're 100% behind that. We want the people's input. It's on a November ballot, a big election. We get a lot of input. So what happens with the, it's $3.5 million, it collects $7 million, it carries over $4 million every year. We just want to have the ability to take that $4 million, put some of it in a surplus fund for a new expansion of the jail at some point in time down the years, and then take the rest of it and move it to streets, drainage, and yes, animal control. This is a catch-all when I put animal control in there because we need to fund animal control. It's one of the biggest things that was on the agenda for every meeting that we went to when we was running for office. So we're simply asking to rededicate those funds. We can't do anything with those funds unless the people allow us to. The second one is the health unit, which is probably the most confusing one. A lot of people do not realize exactly what all the health unit does. So I'm going to go down these things. Sewer inspections. So if somebody buys a mobile home or house or whatever, and they put a sewer tank in this, a MODED, which is what's required at their home, the health unit has to get a clearance from a certified plumber or someone that system has been certified and that they're not putting raw sewage in your ditches. Health unit takes care of that for us under the environmental department of them. The water inspections is the same thing. All the water systems, and we have a lot of independent water systems throughout our parish. They go through the health unit and they're required to do inspections and things of that nature. Health unit does that. The next thing is restaurants. When you go to eat and you want to make sure that the kitchen has been inspected, health unit does that. The other thing that they do is your elderly homes and daycares and all of these other things, they inspect those. They make sure that we are safe, basically. The next thing that they do is they monitor and implement the program of WIC. One thing that they do, I didn't realize, is they actually can provide you with a death certificate, a copy of the death certificate. And the last but not least, that we all know that they do, is immunizations. Thank you, what she said. And that's what everybody a lot of times has looked back at and said that what does the health unit do? They just give shots. And they do a whole lot more than that. And we did a pretty bad job when it was up for election, up for a renewal the last time. One other point, and then I'm gonna call it a night, is that this has been on the parish and funded by the people of this parish for 40, almost 50 years. The last thing I found about it, as far back as I could go, are you ready? It was 1965. So 40-plus years it's been out there, it's been funded. I understand why it was voted down, and, you know, it kind of got kicked around last year, but I'm just asking the people to put it back out there. The other thing that we are doing is rolling that back to 1.5. This particular millage that is out there is 2.0. The original one was 2.5. It can never go to 2.5. It can only go to 2.0. Myself, I'm going to continue to push for a 1.5 moving forward. I'm going to push for a 1.5 moving forward. Does anybody have any questions?
The excess money that would flow back into the parish would go to parish roads maintenance, am I correct?
That's correct. Just like the road program is now.
And none of it can go to state roads, widening or studies or et cetera, only parish roads.
Yes, sir. It's just like the road program is right now, it's put there. But if we have a project that we have some matching funds, then that fund, as far as I know, has the latitude, because those roads are in the parish and it's what's right for the parish. But
Right.
it is designed for parish roads, parish improvements, parish drainage.
Well, I do appreciate you, Mr. Ricky, bringing that to the federal commissioners to understand what's going on with the election too, and it's all good stuff, and thank you for all
Yes, sir.
you do.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you
Thank you,
very
Ms. Long,
much,
and thank you,
appreciate
Board.
it. Okay, item number 5, the master plan, updated population information that was presented. Do we have anyone here for that?
I believe Sabrina said she wasn't going to make it tonight.
Okay, so we will,
We're gonna just go
Pass
ahead and turn
over
that
that.
over to WSB, right?
okay. All right, then, item number 6, Bojangles. Do we have someone here? This is the final site plan for Bojangles. It's in District 9, located on Highway 43. State your name, please.
Good afternoon, Alfredo Gallardo.
Okay. Just any comments that you have for the project?
No, we're just asking for, I guess, the final approval for us to be able to continue on this project. If anybody got a question or concerns.
Okay. Do we have any concerns, Morgan?
No, ma'am. All of our comments have been addressed. We would recommend approval.
Okay. On Bojangles, Ms. Dee Dee, any comments or recommendations?
No, we're okay.
You're okay with everything? Okay. All right. Commissioners, any questions or comments? And does anyone have a motion?
I make a motion to accept site plan for Bojangles. I'll second.
Okay, and it is the final site plan.
Oh, it's final.
Yes.
Final site plan.
Okay. So that is Mr. Burns and Mr. Dana. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Watts, excuse me. I was looking down. Okay, if you'll take a vote, please.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 7.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Item number 7 is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing for the Woodlands preliminary plat. It's located on Highway 444, Council District number 8. So opening any comments?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Easterly. My address is 450 Laurel Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 8th floor, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Ascension Properties. Ascension Properties is the proposed developer for the Woodlands subdivision, and tonight you have before you a copy of the revised preliminary plat 1 for the Woodlands. I believe this was included in your packet, and I hope everyone's gotten a chance to look at it, but this revised preliminary plat includes 39 proposed lots, and it is a large lot subdivision. As you can see on the top row of lots, for lots numbers 1 through 15, we're looking at lots that have widths at the street level of 290 feet for lot number 1, 193 feet for lot number 2, 150 feet for lot number 3, and those lot sizes are consistent with the sizes of the lots for the most part across the whole development. Some are more, some are less. Each of the proposed lots that are called out on the preliminary plat 1 are more than 2 acres. Several of them are considerably larger. Some of them are more than 3 acres. I think, as everyone knows, this has been somewhat of a controversial proposed development. It's been the subject of some litigation in years past. This new proposal is a proposal that represents the culmination of what I would call an ongoing series of discussions with the planning department and Ascension Properties. And what was originally proposed and approved was, I believe, 697 lots. And then there was another discussion and agreement by which that density would be dialed back to something in the neighborhood of 119 lots, as I recall. This proposal dials it back even further to 39 lots, as is reflected on the preliminary plat 1 that's before you tonight. In terms of some of the key attributes of this, as I mentioned, it's 39 lots instead of 119 tonight. We're talking about a development where Ascension Properties plans to build houses that are going to sell in the neighborhood of $450,000 or more, okay? These are gonna be nice houses. I was given today a preliminary draft of the building declarations and covenants for the Woodlands. It's not in final form, but the idea is to have building covenants that include things like a minimum setback for the houses of 75 feet, building restrictions for any sort of building sheds or storage buildings. One of the proposed building covenants is that any storage buildings would have a front facade that would mirror the type of construction on the actual home. The intent is to build a nice house and a nice development. The circumstances as they are, even though a comprehensive drainage study is not necessary under this particular type of proposed development, one has already been conducted because we previously had a contemplation and a approved plat of 697 lots. So the comprehensive drainage study has already been done, correct? Correct. And the drainage attributes of this property are such that the drainage attributes are not going to change the way that it drains in terms of the surrounding properties. I don't know if you can see it very well in your copies, but there are 3 sort of streams or 3 different areas where water collects and runs off. The water will be diverted through an open ditch system to those areas, and I feel confident that based on what the engineers have done thus far, that there aren't going to be any major drainage concerns with this. And certainly I think this is more desirable for the area than a 697 lot subdivision. Unless somebody tells me differently, I believe that this proposed subdivision, the 39 lots, is in compliance with all of the requirements in the code. It's consistent with the existing zoning, which would actually allow for a much more dense subdivision of 1 acre lots. In terms of what the developer intends to do, it's intending to scale back what was previously approved because, in all candor, this matches with what is very desirable in that community. And in discussing this matter with the planning department, it's my understanding that there are people in the area that want this type of development and need housing in this area that matches what is proposed. In terms of the staff and where it stands with the planning department, it's my understanding that it's been approved at staff level, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And I've got Mr. Jeff Diamond here, who's with Quality Engineering. He may be a better person for some of the more engineering type questions, but we would ask that this be approved at the preliminary Plat 1 level, and we can move forward with it.
Okay. Mr. Diamond, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to add?
I don't have any comments. Like Tom says, I'm here to answer questions if anyone has
Okay.
any.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any questions?
How many lots do you plan on building on the second file on track J, the 190 acres? Is that 80? Is that 39 plus 80 is 119?
I think the shortest answer is nothing is planned right now. There have been some discussions about a variety of different possibilities. Whatever is ultimately proposed there would obviously come back through the Planning and Zoning Commission, but just as this particular plat had several different iterations and changed multiple times. I mean, look at the agenda. There's a reference to a preliminary Plat 2. That idea was sort of scrapped in lieu of this one. It just evolved over time. So I can't tell you that there's any specific contemplation for the 191.4 acres, I think is what it shows in the back right now.
Can you say that again about why the second preliminary plat was scrapped?
Well, we decided, Ascension Properties ultimately is the one that made the decision to do it, but.
But this is the agenda item that we're talking about that was on here and was canceled. Is that what you're referring to?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, I think it was more dense than this, but we, Ascension Properties, and I was the one that partially steered Ascension Properties to do this. We dialed it back to this because this, to me, is more workable, less controversial. It's a large lot subdivision. It's at least 2 acre lots. Some are much bigger. And this, to me, is a cleaner proposal. And that's the way that Ascension Properties ultimately decided to do it.
Well, the reason we're asking this is because if you look at track J and then the first 190s, it's all one subdivision, and there are ordinances on number of entrances into the subdivision. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you,
yeah.
Mr. Danny. Yeah.
When you look at the whole subdivision as a whole, the finished product, you know, in track J, there are ordinances on how many entrances you have to have based on the number of houses. Everybody knows about the sewer, you know, after a certain amount, you have to have your own septic, a sewer system, and that's why we're raising these questions.
I think it's fair to say that it will be difficult or impossible to go in there and build 191 lots on the 191.4 acres. Jeff can back me up on that. That certainly has never been discussed in any meeting that I've been a part of, and that's not what the developer intends to do. Okay. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, but all of those requirements are going to have to be satisfied at some point down the road if it ever is developed. It's sort of a to be determined issue in the grand scheme of what is referred to as, is it track J? Oh my gosh.
I think it is.
Yeah, track J. It's sort of a TBD, Mr. Dana, just in terms of what would be developed, if anything, on track J.
Everything will have to come back through here, and they'll have to meet all requirements of engineering and our planning department. So they would have to stay consistent with that. And
That's really the headline here, is that, as Tom mentioned, anything that was proposed for the future be proposed in the future would have to come back to this body, would have to go through engineering, would have to go through planning and development, and would have to meet whatever regulations are in place that have to be met, be they about traffic or sewer control or drainage or anything else.
Okay. Morgan, you had a comment?
I just want to make sure y'all know, when it comes back, it's still looked at as a whole. So
Okay.
all the rules would apply, like that front is still part
So
of
if
it.
they don't want to put a second entrance, then when they add the second filing, they have to make the lots bigger or
They still
make it
have to
fit the
fit.
shape so it's under the number.
And we
I got
consider
you.
this as all one subdivision. That's why that track is still considered into this plat.
Okay.
All those things are consistent. Yes, sir, Mr. Clemens?
Mr. Easley, I'm a little confused here. Let's talk about the elephant in the room and the settlement of July the 27th of last year.
Sure.
My understanding is that this larger piece of property is limited to 119 properties. And
My
so, or what you're saying is that
recollection as well.
the first and the second filing, when it comes, will still be compliant with the 119.
That's the way I read that.
Okay, thank you.
So it's the presumption, or do you in fact agree that with the settlement that was dated July 27th of 23, that everything that you understand that it's falling into those requirements?
I think that's binding on Ascension Properties, and
Yeah.
Ascension Properties can't build more than what's articulated in that settlement document.
Okay. And Mr. Moody, is that your consistent opinion?
That's my opinion.
And that speaks to Mr. Dana's point as well, a little bit. I believe.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
I do believe that it would enable Ascension Properties to build less than that,
Oh,
provided that
yeah.
you agree with it.
Yeah.
But
And I believe that was as well Mr. Moody's consistent opinion as well. So it's a maximum, and just for clarification, the moratorium is in existence, but because of the dates of this, and this is a court-ordered situation, is the reason this is being addressed, just for clarification for the record. Yes, sir, if you'd like to come up and state your name, please. I'm sorry, I said moratorium. I meant settlement, excuse me. Well, we've had people ask the question, the broad question about the moratorium. I'm just clarifying it doesn't apply.
Trey Cowell, 16417 Kenshin Road, 39 lots. Obviously, there's a lot that's massive, correct? 39 lots equals how many acres?
It's 100, I think, the first
It's
one.
100.
Yeah.
Sign says 39 lots, 290 acres. So I'm not sure if they're supposed to follow sign rules or not, but the sign says 39 lots at 290 acres. If you're proving 39 lots at 100 acres, then something's misrepresented on the sign that's out by the road.
Well, actually,
or-
there is a lot, it's considered one lot, but the remaining of that property, it makes it part of that subdivision, but there's one single lot.
That's what I'm asking.
Separate
yeah.
from that,
So there's
yes.
one lot out of those 39,
That's,
190 acres.
yes.
190
Yes.
acres.
Yes.
So supposedly they can never build more than 119 homes on this property.
Correct.
What about if Ascension Properties decides to sell to Johnny Properties?
It doesn't matter. They have to abide by.
So Johnny Properties would have to agree with Ascension
Yes.
Property that they could still only build, what's that, 80 houses?
This will be considered one neighborhood, so if it were to change hands and they tried to create a separate neighborhood, that's not possible.
Not possible.
No. And that's my understanding. Morgan, is that, yes, that is correct.
Mr. Easterly, is that your understanding as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other public comments?
I do just want to clarify a couple of things. So the only way that this is consistent with the density of a large lot subdivision, which the density, so it's a maximum of 40 lots. The density is 1 lot per 3 acres. Mr. Dana said this is only around 100 acres right now. It's actually being developed right now. So 100 acres and 39 lots by itself does not meet that density requirement. So factoring in the other 190 acres, it does, but in the future, with future development, it may not meet that density. However, to go back to the elephant in the room, the settlement stated that we would approve 119 lots plus 6 more lots plus a couple more lots, and also that we would give a waiver for sewer because this would exceed the parish requirement for community sewer, and that we would give a waiver, or the council would give a waiver for the sewer, and the council would give a waiver for the density since this exceeds the density for a large lot subdivision. I'm just curious why it's not being presented in that fashion. It was presented in that fashion last October and December to the council. So I'm just kind of curious why we're coming at it again from this angle and just a third of the neighborhood rather than the entire neighborhood as stated in the settlement.
I think the easiest way to answer your question is that this complies with all the rules and regulations in the development code.
I have a question. What binds this development to 119 acres?
There's a
Lots.
contract. There's a contract between Ascension Properties and the parish.
So that is
It's a contract dated July 27, 2023. Signed in this room that night about 11 o'clock, as I recall, something like that, 10:30. Very controversial situation. There's a lot of litigation stemming from it.
Yes.
It went on and on and on, but that's the nexus, if you will, Mr. Dana, between the 119 acres and this particular property and Ascension Properties.
I did the math on the density. It comes up to 2.56 acres average per lot. The larger still does not quite make the 3 acres. And honestly, that's not a big deal to me personally. It looks like a nice project, nice lot sizes. I was more concerned about the sewer because although you're going to be using ditches for most of the sewer effluent, there's a couple of properties that are going to have to use spray systems. But the majority of them will have modads and go into ditches. We don't have a funded gravity drainage district down there. And so we're not discharging to what we call a blue line waterway, a waterway that doesn't have to be maintained by gravity drainage. And that's really my concern. However, the elephant in the room says that we're not going to look at that. But personally, those are my concerns really with this project is sewer because of the lack of gravity drainage system there.
Or just so I understand what your comment was, Mr. Clemens, are you saying the elephant in the room is that this meets all the code requirements or
This meets the settlement agreement or code requirements. There are 2 places, and one of them is sewer, where it says that we will be given a waiver here, and the other is the density, which we didn't fail to meet the density by much. It's pretty close, really. But the sewer does give me concern, and whether we have a court order or not, I think it's less than responsible to plan on discharging to waterways that are not maintained by a gravity drainage system.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
So I think my interpretation of this situation is there are no waivers being asked for because the waivers are covered by the settlement. Otherwise, I believe this would have to come with the request for waivers as it did in the 4th quarter of last year. Any clarification on that?
The way it's presented here, I don't believe that it requires any waivers. I'm not sure that I understand what the genesis would be for you to say that this would require a waiver.
It won't today. It won't today.
Okay.
It will when phase 2 comes along.
Why would you?
Because it will exceed the number of lots for a large lot subdivision, and because it will exceed 90 lots, which would require community sewer. So at that time, if a waiver was specifically requested and that's covered in the settlement, okay. I want to be mindful that we don't approve something that would typically require a waiver unless we have it stated in writing somewhere why that waiver is either being granted or not even being talked about.
I would like to make a comment on that. Whenever they get to the threshold of a waiver being required, Mr. Delight is going to have the engineers put on that plat or filing that the waiver was a result of the settlement, well, the ruling from the federal judge, that it was dated in '23. All of that will be filed at the clerk of court's office, and it will be a reflection of this is past. This is not something that you, as the planning commission or the council at this time in administration, made the decision on. So if we get to the point, or when they get to the point of the threshold of the 2 waivers that the federal judge mandates us to issue, that will be required, and they were okay with listing that on the plat as well. He does not want in 5 or 10 years people come looking or researching, and then it comes back and think it's a result of stuff that y'all approved. Y'all's hands are tied on these 2 issues, just like the council is. But, I mean, we have to, if they meet everything else, we do need to address the elephant in the room. Let's try to move forward. And
The only issue we were discussing tonight is the first 39 law.
correct.
Right? We're not discussing what might be
Correct.
later.
Well, I think she was just, with
I haven't
Tom
read-
being here, getting some clarification.
I understand. but
And
I
that was a
haven't had
legitimate
chance to read
question,
all the other
Sarah.
stuff on the, I'm sorry.
I was telling her that that was a good question, statement that she requested.
Just the first 39 lots, but all the other, any additional lots that's coming, that's covered by consent decree, that hasn't happened yet. We're not discussing that.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. She was just getting clarification with Tom
clarification.
being here and
I know, but that's
him
not,
able
before-
to.
that is not before us.
It's only before us because the settlement is before us, and the settlement stated somewhere in the neighborhood of 119 to 127 lots.
But that, I got that information here tonight. I haven't read it yet, but that's only if they go forward and develop the rest on track J. But that's not before us tonight.
My understanding
That
is,
is technically correct.
I understand this is the first bite of that elephant.
That's not what we're considering tonight. We're only considering the first 39 lots. Am I correct?
This is the first bite of the settlement.
But
That's
we
what's
haven't-
being, that is what's being presented. It was, however, it is linked
haven't
to
reached
the
the
entirety,
threshold.
but it's still linked to the entirety of the settlement,
it,
which
but
is why
that's
she
not-
had the question.
But that's not before us.
She asked for clarity.
Would you like me to request that it be struck from the record? I'm not sure what action we're requesting
I
here.
just wanted to make sure that we're not.
Yes, we're considering
anything
39
other than
lots.
39 lots,
Mhm.
that's all.
39
It's strictly what's before us,
And
right.
I'm not disagreeing with you bringing it up. I'm just wanting a clarification, okay?
Okay, any other comments? All right, yes, sir.
Bradley Wheat, 17295 Jack Allen Road. In the judgment, I guess you guys have all read it. Do you know, was Ascension Properties supposed to come back with a full 119 lot plat to the planning?
That is more of a maximum to my understanding. It's not.
Right, but I'm saying, was it all, I guess there were some concerns about the other 190 acres. The whole total property is more than 290.
Right.
This property has gained land, lost land. They're only showing 290. There's still another 30 acres
Right.
outstanding. I know there's the 290 that's future development. I
Morgan,
thought it was
would-
in the judgment that they had to come back with a plat that showed all 119 on 309 acres, not on
Morgan,
290.
Could you clarify for him, or?
I'm not sure if they named the acreage in the,
290.
I haven't read the ruling on the waivers and stuff by the judge on the consent decree. We got that tonight. I haven't read it yet.
So this
I'm
whole
not- I
parcel of
wasn't
land is more than 290 acres.
Well, I wasn't privy to that,
So-
so I don't know. I mean, but that's not.
It's
before
public
us.
record, so.
Well, this is all, again, like we mentioned before, it's still one subdivision.
Correct.
So they'll have to, everything that is required from, the fire marshal, everything every requirement that would normally be required,
Right.
they will have to follow.
And the reason I bring this up, if you go and you put the 119 on the 290 acres, you still have 30 more acres that you can put residential property on, and then you're definitely going to exceed like the state limit for housing without having a sewer.
So the settlement looks at it as all the 309 total, but then they separated it out, and they were gonna have like 6 residential lots fronting Highway 444, and then they had 2 fronting Jack Allen. So they separated some out of that 309 total that what
Right.
they originally
Which brings you to the
saw.
125, which requires.
Right, but they're,
So
those
in here, they
separate are
have
not the same.
119 on the remaining.
So 119 on 290?
Yes,
Because that's what the new plat says. Okay.
correct. And the others she
Is
specified
that-
are separate.
Is that correct, Morgan?
I don't know if that's correct,
290 of 319.
because
that
they
correct?
used to have a strip of land down
309.
here,
309.
and I think that included the 2 night. I'd have to look at the previous map and like actually dissect this.
But it wouldn't
But the-
exceed that.
It wouldn't
It
exceed
can't
it, but they
exceed
might
that.
do that on this separate property that was not actually going to attach to this.
But as far as this
But it is attached, it's all
particular
one big parcel,
They
or two
They
parcels.
separated this little,
How-
there's like a leg right here. They separated that out.
Separated it how?
Like it's gonna be subdivided out, so they're only doing this big piece. There's no connection to Jack Allen anymore.
Correct. So what about the southernmost on 444?
This part?
Southern.
Come show us.
Yeah, show me.
So here, these.
So they
right?
cut- they
So you
cut-
add, whatever, 10 or 15 more houses. You've already met your 119.
So these were
Then-
separated out as minor and will not be included in this subdivision.
So-
What you're seeing
and-
today in this large
And that's
property
great for
line,
the subdivision, but then whenever you start compounding all of this sewer going all the way through, this one total piece of property
that'll be up to the
exceeds a
state.
state limit. That's right.
That
So
will be, and the state still
settlement
has
does
their
not
discretion.
waive the state requirements.
It can't.
It only waives our parish.
The parish,
So
that's
they
correct.
still, if they get
But
to
does the state know that this is happening, how it's happening? Probably not. They're gonna see 115 or whatever it is that they come up with.
It's
And
cumulative.
then that's right.
It's
And then they'll-
cumulative as well.
Okay.
And the state, DHH was in on our meetings as well, our preliminaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Sure, but I'm gonna close the public hearing, and then your comments are
Sitting there
welcome.
reading this agreement dated 7/27, Ascension Properties agrees to submit a revised preliminary plat, yada, 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 including 6 residential lots on the front, 2 on Jack Allen, and 119 on the remainder. I do not see where this settlement says that we're going to create 2 different neighborhoods, one 119 lots and one of them of 8 lots. It says there's going to be one project. But that would place them under state regulation on sewer, not parish regulation.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'll respond when you finish.
Sure.
We did that, and the parish rejected it. We presented it, and it was denied. And I can't-
I'm just reading the settlement.
Yeah, no, and I was here before the council and asked for the waivers and the variances, and those were rejected. Just giving you the update as sort of the history of that.
But the settlement says there's going to be one project.
Well, the parish, the settlement also said that the parish would grant the waivers. So where do you go with that? And the answer is, we're here tonight with a new proposal. It's the preliminary plat that's before you. So,
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that if the parish does not enforce sewer, there's still a state to be concerned with.
And Mr. Ladd, I think, just said that those requirements can't be waived by a contract of sorts
Yeah.
between the developer and the parish.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we still have to
But
follow
our
those.
agreement is that we're not going to enforce our sewer according to these numbers. We're going to allow individuals treatment. Is that correct? Up to those numbers.
So
Yeah.
well, I mean, the document says what the document says, but again, we were here. Ascension Properties did what it was obligated to do according to the face of that document. The parish said no and would not extend the variances and the waivers. So there's a lot of different things that one can say about the legal aspects of that, but we're here tonight with a preliminary plat that meets all the requirements with 39 lots.
So is it your opinion that what you are requesting tonight is consistent with the settlement agreement? Is consistent with Ascension Properties' end of the settlement agreement?
I think it's consistent with the density.
Is it consistent with the settlement agreement? And Mr. Moody, I think also we need your opinion. Is it consistent with the settlement agreement? Are we, in considering this, if we approve it, do we uphold or violate the settlement agreement in any way?
I don't think you have violated it. If you come in here and adopting this at their request, they can't come back and say, hey, you violated this because we requested it. So, look, is it somewhat, this is a slightly different deal than the settlement agreement that was presented, but was voted down before. So this looks to be a better deal. I don't know why you would turn a gift horse down if they're now willing to be more conciliatory.
Well, especially, again, we're addressing 39 lots and not the entirety.
Sure, 39 lot, 119 was fine. I wouldn't have an issue with 119 before me tonight. I certainly don't have an issue with 39. I don't think any of us thinks they're going to sit on 190 acres and not develop that, though. And if that's a total of 119 to 127, as reads in the settlement agreement, I have no issue with that personally. I just want to make sure that what we are doing does not in any way violate the terms of the settlement, because I don't think any of us wants to go through any of that.
They'd be hard pressed to try to enforce that since they asked for this, so.
Yeah, I view this as a new offer, and I have no reason to believe that any.
It's already been settled. It's been settled. Ain't no new offers. You want 119, get 119.
Excuse me.
Mr. Easley, could I ask you a question directly?
Well,
as their attorney, do you feel that if we approve this, that we will have adhered to the agreement?
Well, I think the parish has already not held up its end of that agreement, because the document contemplated that the parish would extend variances and waivers, and it didn't do that, as I recall.
If
Now,
we do what
that's-
you're asking tonight,
now
will
that's-
we be in compliance?
I think a better question is, if you approve what I'm asking you to approve tonight, will that constitute a violation of the settlement agreement? And the answer to that is a firm no. Because I'm sitting here, as Mr. Moody said, bringing you a new offer. It's something with less density than was originally contemplated, and it is a new offer. At my behest, we're making this offer, and if you approve it, that will not result in any argument that there was a violation of the settlement agreement.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are clean and clear if you approve this in terms of somebody coming back and saying you violated the settlement agreement.
Because in your opinion, the settlement agreement has already been violated. Is that what I heard you say just a couple minutes ago?
Well, I mean, specifically, I haven't gone back to look at the exact verbiage with respect to the waivers and the variances, and I don't remember exactly how it was read. I'm sitting here looking at part of it right now, but.
But in the denial, I thought I understood you to say in the denial back in December.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what was the spirit of the original agreement, Ms. Ferris, was that we were going to submit a revised plat of 119, and the parish council, I think, is the body that was going to do it, was going to give us the waivers and the variances so we could
Right,
make
so
it
it
work.
doesn't matter what we do here tonight.
I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think it does
In
make a
terms of the
difference.
settlement, I mean, like I said, I have no problems with the current proposed development. I have no problems with this preliminary plat. I agree with you that it, in the current configuration, doesn't violate anything in the parish development code, no concerns there. But from the perspective of the settlement, it doesn't sound like it matters.
I think what you do tonight does matter, but I don't think that it has a bearing on whether or not the parish will violate the settlement agreement. This is a new question. It relates purely to the new preliminary plat that has just the 39 lots. And the question is, does that meet the code requirements, or does it not meet the code requirements? And our position is that it does meet the code requirements, and frankly, that it's a use by right. So, for all those reasons and everything I said before, I'd ask that it be approved.
Sure. Well, one more, please, and that'll be it for the evening.
My question is, there was 309 acres.
State your name, please.
Dewana Christian,
And-
2438 Mill Road,
And sign up,
Livingston.
please, if you will.
There was 309 acres in the settlement, in the judgment. 309 acres with 119 lots. Why are we coming here with 39 lots when none of that was not approved? It was, the judgment said 309 acres and 119 lots plus 6 plus 2. So we're just confused as to who changed it. Why was it allowed to be changed?
It's my understanding that they can go to that limit, and Mr. Moody, if you can
But he's saying
interject,
that he doesn't know
otherwise.
what they're going to do with the rest of the acreage.
But they will
He
be
just said
held
that.
within.
He doesn't know what they're going to do with the rest of the acreage.
And which is their prerogative to choose to, they
Not in
could
the
choose to
judgment.
build nothing. They cannot exceed the 119 and then the additional. If you'd like to comment.
Well, I think the point is good. The settlement agreement does say they will build 119 plus plus. But I think all of us understood that meant they will build no more than that. The other question is.
But he didn't say that, did he? He didn't say that.
No, he didn't say they would, but why would we complain if they're gonna do something less?
We're not complaining because it's less. He just said he doesn't know what he's going to do with the rest of the acreage.
Well, it'll have to
Are
meet your
y'all-
ordinance
are you
or-
s- Let me
and-
ask you, Mr. Moody, are you saying that the remainder of the acreage cannot exceed 119 total houses plus 6 houses plus 2?
Totally.
So you're saying that on record?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can't come back and ask for more houses or more lots to be put
Not
on
without
that
additional
309
permission.
acres?
That is correct.
Even if you sell it to someone else who
That
wants
is
to develop
correct,
it?
which we verified earlier.
They cannot
so.
come back here and say, well, I bought it, now I want to do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And she verified it and the engineer verified
Does he
that they.
agree to that? I would like for you to ask
Well,
him to state that.
It's not his prerogative. I mean, it
No,
goes
is.
through the
Well,
department.
it kinda is,
He
because
can
he's not
sub-
agreeing to that,
Ma'am.
from what I'm hearing.
He can submit it, but it does not mean it would be approved. And the approval has to take
But
place.
he's probably got some loopholes up his sleeve, is what I'm saying, because we're not
Okay.
real bright,
Well-
smart attorneys, are we?
Okay,
So
well,
there's some
I-
loophole somewhere that makes him not want to state that on record. And I would like to hear him state that the total houses on 309 acres will be 119 plus 6 plus 2. I want to hear him say it.
Well,
Please.
I believe that the record and what the agreement states speaks for that. And well, he's not required to do so. So, okay, that closes the public hearing. And
Can
any
I
other
play devil's
comments?
advocate real quick? Let's say the 190, they decide they want to build 1 acre each, 190. They're violating the agreement right there. I mean, could the parish sue them?
Let Morgan
Okay.
respond.
Y'all keep playing these what ifs, but I feel like I need to cut them off. This property is zoned and you have ordinances. They are only allowed to do 119 total because of a settlement. They
That's
couldn't
a
have
done
done
deal.
that with me if they would have came through the normal way. You have a large lot subdivision, a max of 40 lots. So they're already at the max. Anything else is dictated by this judgment.
So that cannot be changed, and the department makes sure that it isn't. So
Thank you,
I think we should move forward. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, we accept it, and I hold my nose when I do it.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Clements and a second by Mr. Engler. Take a vote, please.
Mr. Engler?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clements?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes.
Mr. Wax?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Ferris?
Before I vote, I just want to state that as the preliminary plat is presented tonight, it is consistent with our development code based on what we have before us tonight, and with that, I have no issue, so I will vote yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Moody, would you like to make any other comments?
And it's been a long meeting. I handed out an opinion we just got today from the First Circuit on a case we're not handling for you, but we handled in Tangipahoa Parish, and it dealt with a development, a dollar store that the council and the planning commission turned down over there, although it met their ordinance. So it's one of these use of by right developments, and yet there was a lot of opposition to it. Hundreds of people showed up, and 900 people signed petitions against it, so the council turned it down. The developer sued us, and we fought the case hard, and we put on what we thought was a pretty good evidence of health, safety, and welfare issues. And our local judge ruled in our favor, Judge Abels, and denied their appeal. They appealed that, though, to the First Circuit, and now this 3-judge panel has reversed that. And it gives you some good language and some instructive things here as we're all learning about this changing field of the law. But it's consistent with the advice we've given you. If a project meets your ordinance and it's not requiring a variance, then you ought to be super careful and have very good reasons you can enunciate when you consider it if you're going to deny it if it meets your ordinance. So I'm just passing this along as general information.
Thank you very much. All right. Ms. Morgan, any comments?
No comments.
You're done, huh? Ms. Dee Dee?
I have no comments either.
Okay, any commissioners' comments? All right, gentlemen, ladies, are we done? Adjourned.
Appreciate it.
Sir.